Good morning and warm welcome to all. Respected Dr. Harshdeep Kamble, Principal Secretary, Industries and Mines, Maharashtra, Mr. Sanjay Mehta, Mr. Yogesh Mandhani, Madam Ruchika Govil, who will be joining us through video conferencing, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Mr. Sudhir Kumar, Advisor to Niti Aayog, Mr. Amit Verma, Director, Niti Aayog, Mr. Ved Prakash Mishra, Director, Ministry of Environment Forest, Mr. Anand Pranjpe, Mr. Sujit Samadar, Ullas Parlikar ji, and eminent personalities present here at this conference. As you all are aware, we are gathered here to discuss the policy prescriptions on circular economy park in Maharashtra. Maharashtra being one of the leading states in India, I'll say one of the best states in India, having 14% of the total India's GDP is contributed through Maharashtra. 15% of total India's industrial output is through Maharashtra. There are many other things. If I talk, it will take more than 1 hour. Maharashtra government is trying to take a very big leap in terms of fulfilling the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and planning to come up with 4 circular economy parks in the state. If these circular economy parks are established all over the country, it will have immense benefit, economic, social, and environmental benefit. Just a data, I'll give it to you. Niti Aayog has made one report on national material recycling policy, in which they have mentioned that if circular economy is implemented in its whole in the country, by 2030, there will be a value addition of 14 lakh crores in the Indian economy. The biggest contribution of recycling industry is job creation. If circular economy parks and circular economy is implemented as a whole, there will be 4 million direct jobs and 10 to 15 million additional indirect jobs. This is the major contribution to our nation. And all these jobs are mostly in blue-collar economy, blue-collar people. There will be huge reduction in carbon emissions and GHG emissions. Under the aegis of our chief guest, we all are meeting here to discuss the policy prescription for Maharashtra Circular Economy Park. I thank you, sir, for being here and sparing your valuable time. I request our President, Mr. Sanjay Mehta, to come to take over and say a few words.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू हर्षवर्धन काम्बले साहब और उनकी टीम के मेंबर्स सारे महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट से आए हुए, as well as eminent personalities across India who has been invited and came all the way to speak about circular economy at Mumbai. महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट के भी काफ़ी ऑफिसर्स यहाँ पर अवेलेबल है. सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी क्यों ज़रूरी है, क्या ज़रूरी है, हमको सबको मालूम है, उसके बारे में हम ज़्यादा नहीं बात करेंगे. कल से या लास्ट 8 दिन से जो डेवलपमेंट महाराष्ट्र में हुए हैं, अदरवाइज ऑल क्रॉस इंडिया हुए हैं, G20 की समिट बॉम्बे में चल रही है, बेंगलोर में चल रही है, बहुत जगह पर चल रही है. सडनली लास्ट 15-20 दिन में चारों बाजू में G20 का कॉन्फ्रेंसेस वगैरह ऑर्गेनाइज होना चालू हो गया. 1 साल इंडिया का है, 1 साल के अंदर बहुत कुछ डेवलपमेंट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट करेगी, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट करेगी, और हमारी भी काफ़ी कुछ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ है, जिसके अंदर हमको काफ़ी कुछ करना है, गवर्नमेंट को सपोर्ट करना है, और एज ए स्टेक होल्डर्स हमको इन्फॉर्मेशन भी प्रोवाइड करनी है, और एज वेल एज हमको उसके बेनिफिट्स भी लेने हैं, जो बेनिफिट्स हमको आने वाले दिनों में हमको सबको मिलेंगे. MRAI के बारे में मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा. हमको सबको मालूम है लास्ट 12 साल में MRAI ने बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोग्रेस की है, आपके साथ में मिलकर प्रोग्रेस की है. जो हमारी रीजनल एसोसिएशन है, चाहे बॉम्बे मेटल एसोसिएशन हो, बॉम्बे नॉन फेरस मेटल एसोसिएशन हो, अनमा हो, बहुत सारी एसोसिएशन का सपोर्ट रहा और मेंबर्स का सपोर्ट रहा. उसके द्वारा हमने काफ़ी पॉलिसीज़ में पार्टिसिपेशन किया ऑलमोस्ट 12 से 15 सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी जिसके अंदर MRAI के बारे में उल्लेख किया गया है। MRAI ने फुल सपोर्ट किया है उसको। सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी के अंदर लगभग कुछ नहीं तो लास्ट 10 साल से हम लोग रिसर्च कर रहे हैं। बहुत सारी रिपोर्ट्स अक्रॉस इंडिया अवेलेबल है। सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पास में भी बहुत सारा रिसर्च मटेरियल अवेलेबल है। यहाँ पर सुजीत समादार साहब बैठे हैं, उल्लास पर्लिकर साहब बैठे हैं, बिनीशा जी बैठे हैं, जो काफ़ी कुछ ज्ञान हमको देंगे, काफ़ी कुछ चीज़ें बताएंगे हमको। मैं बहुत कुछ चीज़ें बोलने वाला था, लेकिन कल से जब मालूम हुआ कि अभी टाइम की बहुत ज़्यादा कमी है सर के पास में, कामरे साहब के पास में, उनको G20 में भी पहुँचना है। और मैं तो धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा कि इतना टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट के होने के बावजूद भी सर ने ये प्रोग्राम कैंसिल नहीं किया। योगेश मंदानी साहब को धन्यवाद देता हूं कि उन्होंने, उनके अथक प्रयास से ये कॉन्फ्रेंस सफल हुई और एटलीस्ट ये पॉसिबल हुआ है। उन्होंने ENY को ऑलरेडी अपॉइंट कर दिया है। 4 रिसाइकलिंग पार्क की उनकी मंशा है कि 4 रिसाइकलिंग पार्क महाराष्ट्र में आए। महाराष्ट्र एक पहला स्टेट होगा जिसको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी ग्रैब कर रहा है या अपॉर्चुनिटी को आगे बढ़ा रहा है, और एक लोगों के लिए सब सारा काम हो रहा है, हमारे लिए, आपके लिए काम हो रहा है। सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी की हम लोग बात बहुत टाइम से कर रहे हैं, लेकिन इस गवर्नमेंट ने आके इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को एटलीस्ट आपके, हमारी और आपकी फैसिलिटीज के लिए देने का प्रयास कर रही है। हमारी ये सबकी एटलीस्ट फुल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि हम मैक्सिमम से मैक्सिमम सपोर्ट गवर्नमेंट को करके बताएं कि क्या चीज हमको जरूरी है, और कुछ चीजें डेफिनेटली गवर्नमेंट की भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी जो बनेगी, जो हमको बताना पड़ेगा कि ये कॉमन फैसिलिटीज है जो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से होगा। गवर्नमेंट पूरा प्रयास कर रही है। मैं सर से मिला, सर की टीम से मिला, मंत्रालय में 2 मीटिंग हुई। मैं इतना बोलूंगा कि दिस इज द बेस्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी वी हैव रिसीव्ड सो फार। हमने MRAI ने लास्ट 10 साल से प्रयास कर रहे हैं। जो महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट के जो इनिशिएटिव जिस तरीके से भी हो रहे हैं, इसको हमको सबको ग्रैब करना है और सबको प्रॉपर तरीके से आगे बढ़ना है। ENY को भी मैं इतना बोलूंगा कि बहुत सारी पॉलिसीज नीति आयोग ने बनाई है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने बनाई है, MRAI के पास बहुत सारा मसाला पड़ा है, इनके स्टेक होल्डर्स के पास मसाला पड़ा है। आप इसको लीजिए, जगह जगह घूमिए। महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट ने आपको रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज दी है। हम आपको लेके जाएंगे एक स्टेक होल्डर्स के पास में, क्रॉस इंडिया घुमाएंगे, मिनिस्ट्रीज में लेके जाएंगे जहां पर हमको नॉलेज है। 11 कमेटी बन चुकी है, उनके भी एक्सटेंडेबल पॉइंट्स आपके पास अवेलेबल है, गवर्नमेंट के पास अवेलेबल है, हमारे पास अवेलेबल है, उसको भी पढ़िए। सुजीत समादार साहब ने मटेरियल रिसाइकलिंग पॉलिसी, ड्राफ्ट पॉलिसी का डॉक्यूमेंट पढ़ा हुआ है, रिसोर्स एफिशिएंसी का डॉक्यूमेंट पढ़ा हुआ है, बहुत कुछ रिसर्च होकर पढ़ा हुआ है। हम बेटर री इन्वेंट नहीं करें और उसको पहले पढ़े, हम उसके अंदर से जितना भी इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है उसको हम पहले जाने, उसके बाद में हम री इन्वेंट करें। री इन्वेंट के लिए समय नहीं मिलेगा और उसमें हम और भी ज्यादा टाइम खो देंगे, मेरा ये मानना है। तो एक MRAI नॉलेज पार्टनर की तरह इसके अंदर पॉलिसीज में काम करेगी। आपसे सबसे यही निवेदन है कि बेस्ट से बेस्ट प्रयास करके महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट को आप सपोर्ट करें। और ये हमारे लिए सबकी ये फैसिलिटीज तैयार हो रही है, महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट देने के लिए बैठी है। आज ये आप समझ लीजिए कि इतने बड़े बिजी शेड्यूल के बावजूद सर का यहाँ पर 9:30 बजे आना, कमिटमेंट को, कल शाम को उनका फोन आया कि नहीं मैं 10:30 बजे नहीं, मैं 9:30 बजे आऊंगा, मुझे जल्दी से भागना है और G20 के समिट के अंदर भी मुझे जाना है। तो ये कमिटमेंट की वैल्यू है कि ऑल द वे टाउन से, मंत्रालय से यहाँ पर उनका प्रयास है, उनके रेसिडेंस भी वहां पर है, यहाँ पर उन्होंने ट्रैवल करके आपके, मेरे लिए, सबके लिए, फैसिलिटीज के लिए अपने यहाँ पर आए। धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट को, धन्यवाद कामले साहब, धन्यवाद योगेश मंदानी जी और आप सबको, कि मैं टाइम नहीं वेस्ट करूंगा। मेरी आपसे भी एक ही विनंती है कि सर के सामने 1 घंटे के अंदर हम डिस्कस करते रहेंगे, दोपहर तक, शाम तक हम यहाँ पर हैं, हम भी अवेलेबल है, पूरी ENY की टीम भी अवेलेबल है, लेकिन सर के सामने कोई चीज हम रिपीट नहीं करें। जो चीज हमको चाहिए वो चीज अगर किसी एक भाई साहब ने बोल दी है तो हम उसकी चीज के आगे बढ़े। बाकी हम ENY से मिलते रहेंगे, महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट के दूसरे ऑफिसर से उनसे मिलते रहेंगे, हम टाइम का सदुपयोग करें। थैंक यू वेरी मच एवरीवन, थैंक यू। सर आपसे एक और रिक्वेस्ट है कि MRAI को आप एक नॉलेज पार्टनर का दर्जा दे दीजिए, हमारा मोटिवेशन बढ़ेगा, हम और से और काम करेंगे इस पॉलिसीज के अंदर, हम नॉलेज पार्टनर बनना चाहते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
Now may I request Mr. Yogesh Mandani to say a few words.
Good morning to all and welcome each and everyone. Sir, actually we should thank government and to you for making us arranging this open forum. Now I say this is an open forum because we all are here to discuss and give something what the policy should be for circular economic park. See, this is an unique concept wherein I hope this would be the first in India, and the Maharashtra is taking a lead for this, sir. So it's really a great, successful and unique concept which we all will witness. So इसमें ये rounds of meetings होंगे, आज ये फर्स्ट इनिशियल मीटिंग है, हो सकता कपल ऑफ मीटिंग्स और हो गए, एंड आफ्टर दैट वी शुड कम टू एन कंक्लूजन फॉर गिविंग द बेस्ट ऑफ द पॉलिसी, एंड दिस पॉलिसी शुड हेल्प टू create more entrepreneurs, more business value, and sustainability. Sir, we hope that with your support, we will get all this. Thank you.
May I request Mr. Sujit Samadar to please say a few words about the circular economy policy. He has worked a lot with Niti Aayog on this subject and having immense knowledge in the subject.
Thank you very much. I'll just go straight to the point, and thank you, MRAI, for having me here on speaking on a subject which is not only a matter of interest, but it's my particular passion. As a professional, I'm an aerospace and defense guy, but my passion is the recycling community for 5 years, having worked on this. To come straight to the point on the circular economic parks, various concepts have been developed over a period of time, which we had examined in Niti Aayog for different industries, whether it was textiles, food processing, and many of these things. So that entire body of knowledge, which was used in different types of clusters, can be put together to our benefit here to design a circular economy zone and cluster. That is the main point. Now, what happens here is, and I think we were just discussing this, the key issue about forming clusters is the ability to have feedstock security. That means you should have, for example, Pune. Between Bombay and Pune, we have a huge amount of two-wheelers, for example. So it's a very good place to do recycling of two-wheelers, for example. But when you are doing recycling of two-wheelers, you have to look at it from all the sectors. The upstream part, the downstream part, the midstream part. Which means that tomorrow if you take a two-wheeler and dismantle it, you should be able to take the engine blocks here, gearbox casings here, the frames here, the wheels there. And this is again sent straight to a foundry and not to a furnace to be able to produce the same wheel, the same engine block, the same gearbox in a located facility. This is where the circularity comes in. So it's not enough to just bring it, melt it, and make it into ingots and sheets and metal and send it back to some other place. That will not get us right. So this is one idea. The second, I'll just make 2 or 3 points, and then we'll get to the specifics. The other is this whole business of plastics, of what we call rPET. Now, when you are processing plastics, for example, whether it's PET bottles, etc., by and large, depending on the quality of the PET bottles, whether they are food grade or not, they can either be put back made into more PET bottles, or they can be, if they are not food grade, then they should go into the textiles and other chain. So if we are doing clusters on PET bottle processing, which is a huge, huge problem for the whole world, forget about India, microplastics and all of that, this is something that Maharashtra can take a lead in, designing a system which takes in the collection centers, it comes to a central facility which converts it into flakes, it's cleaned up, and then it is tested by the appropriate standards for food grade or not. If it is food grade, it becomes pre-packed. There's a bottling plant next to it. It goes out to the market. The bottle gets over, comes back here, and this circularity is there. If it does not meet the food grade thing, then you convert it into pellets and fiber and yarn, textiles, and from textiles you can make shoes, you can make t-shirts and whatever else. And once those things gets over, in that same place, it again comes back to this whole thing and we get this circularity. So this is what is understood by a circular concept. So you have both the upstream part, which is where it is coming from, the midstream part where the processing is taking place, downstream part is where the process is ending into the same product or a near equivalent of that product as one thing. So this is the broad idea in which circular economic zones have been created across the world. UNIDO, I'm sure UNY or somebody else is here who understands all these things. You can have a look at the UNIDO report on how circular economic zones have to be created. Those can be looked at. The basic idea of these clusters are 2 or 3 things. First is we must meet the aspirations of the COP27, the G20 commitments in terms of energy, in terms of emissions, in terms of pollutions. These things can be brought about by combining these efforts so that everybody does not have his own ETP and STP and etc. And similarly, if the whole lot of shared facilities, training rooms, conferences, and all of that can be put together in one place. So we can design this. We have done this before, and we are quite happy to work with you to design this as well. And the last point that I want to bring out here is this whole business of symbiosis. That means the clusters must exist as a complete ecosystem. That means it must be smart. It should be designed like what we have done in the Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. Many smart cities have come up. Some of those ideas can be brought into the circular economy zone concepts, where there is quality of life, where there is work-life balance, where every transportation is easy. So it's a holistic project. And if we put our minds and shoulders to this task, I am sure we can create the world's best circular economic zones in the world, using renewable energy, green hydrogen, green ammonia, full recyclability with zero waste. This is possible, and I certainly hope that we will see one of these dates. And broadly, as a understanding, I put the note there, some note which MRAI has submitted in terms of the broad classification of use areas. I think this is a little bit, by and large, okay, but I would think probably the green areas should be a little more. And these should be places where public should be able to go and see. It's not just, I mean, you should proudly go and see that place. Every child should go and see that place. There should be ducks out there, there should be deer out there, there should be nice trees out there. They should understand this is what Mother Earth was, and this is how we can retain it back to that point. So these are some suggestions, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them on later on. But thank you very much again. There's a lot of passion and commitment in this room. I urge our government of Maharashtra to give us an opportunity to work with you. And some policy interventions will be required. One of the most important policies that the government of Maharashtra has to take forward is the ELV policy. And if there's any work to be done on the ELV policy, we'd be quite happy to work with the government of Maharashtra in developing an ELV policy for this purpose. Thank you very much for your patience, and all the best for today's conference. Thank you.
Now may I request Ullas ji to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Shri Kamble, and dignitaries, friends, experts, everybody's here in the audience. I think there are 2-3 important things which need to be looked at while considering the eco parks or the recycling parks. One is, how do we recycle the wastes efficiently, ecologically sustaining manner, as well as environmentally friendly manner? And that is where I think the recirculating parks will have to work for. And for that, the waste have to be looked at from a different perspective, which is a resource as an input material. And that requires a different eye. And I think there's need to develop that kind of a approach. The second is, Mr. Samadar was talking about plastic waste. Plastic recycling in India is at a very high scale, large scale, but it's all informal and very, very small sector. The quality of the material which comes out of that is not as good to fulfill the requirements of EPR mandate, which has come, where we are talking about 30-50% recycling of the virgin materials. If that has to happen, there's an important thing, that is the quality of the recyclates or the granules have to improve substantially. If that has to happen, the small scale industry cannot afford that, to do the cleaning, to do the segregation to the level that is required. In the recycling park, if we are able to set up a facility which deals with proper cleaning, proper segregation of the materials, and then give it to the processing industries, they'll be able to produce excellent quality recyclates or granules, which can then be utilized as the input material, replacing the virgin material, will facilitate the compliance to the EPR mandate that we have. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. The third thing is industrial symbiosis that Mr. Sujit was talking about. It's important to map the industries around the parks that we are talking about, because that is where I think the most, I would say, opportunity lies in creating a sustainable and a successful eco park. The waste which are getting generated currently, unfortunately, they get into just TSDF
for disposal options, but there's huge potential available for them to utilize. And for that, there's need to look at it again in a little different perspective. And while designing this particular eco parks or the recycling parks, these wastes, the volume, the intensity, the nature, I think is very, very important to be looked at. A good database will have to be generated to start evaluating and then utilizing that. Otherwise, there will not be major thing available for us. The next thing is just one or 2 points I just thought I should add. There is need for technology development also, and there are a variety of agencies who have potential to do that. Eco Park, of course, the government has to set up, but to promote further opportunities for it to happen, the research is also very important. For example, today CO2 is a climate concern. Tomorrow CO2 can be an opportunity. The CO2 can be converted into algae, to methanol. Sir is here, Modak sir is here. Methanol can be converted into a variety of chemicals. Algae can be utilized as fuel. So you fire algae, create CO2, utilize CO2, create algae. And amount of algae that you can generate and the energy that you generate out of CO2 is 4 times more than what you will fire. So that's the opportunity which is there in recycling materials. Why don't we think of SOx and NOx converting into fertilizer? You can just react with ammonia. You get ammonium sulfate and ammonium nitrate as a fertilizer. You need to look at that, all those options also. So there are, and for that, I think the startups probably will need to be promoted. This Remade India that we are from MRAI, launching, where we are trying to locate the technologies which have potential to become some kind of a game changer. I think the government also should start looking forward to creating opportunities, platforms where such technologies can be promoted. And I think that's all. Thank you very much.
I'll request Madam Benisha to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Since the preamble has already been set, let me directly jump into the steps in the strategy for making this circular economy. So what usually happens, because I've worked earlier with designing of industrial parks, and the best and the first thing which needs to be done is inventorization of the waste. Because it's not only enough that we find out what kind of waste are generated here and the type, but we should also know that there are certain wastes which are coming from outside, especially for recycling. And there are wastes which go from Maharashtra outside. So unless we know the exact inventorization of the waste, we cannot start any kind of planning. So this is a first and foremost thing which needs to be done. And this, in fact, is in line with MRAI's vision of setting up a proper database in recycling for entire India. So I think this could be the model for entire India. The second aspect is, while doing this inventorization, it's also important that, or it is actually an offshoot of this, which is the integration of the informal sector. Because today, I know all of you who are sitting here usually would mention that you are not getting the waste because of the informal sector. But how do we integrate them so that they also survive, you also survive? So that is something which also needs to be done, which is an offshoot of inventorization. This is again important, because unless we do this, we might create world-class infrastructure. And this would be similar to what has happened in Karnataka, in Bidar, and also Madurai, Calcutta. There are so many very good industrial parks which are today like ghost parks. So we should not repeat the whole thing. The second point, other than inventorization, is the governance structure. Because usually we think governance structure comes at the end. But unless we have a clear governance structure right in the beginning, we will never be able to undertake we will never be doing justice to this entire parks. And for this, I draw an example or a parallel, which is again from Karnataka, which is the first of its kind in India, which is the LCTA. That's the Electronic Industry Association, and sir might already know about it, because this is a structure which is a PPP model. And here, best thing is that for the entire operation management, the industries are involved. And if you see, they have even got a structure where SPG is also being managed by LCTA. So that is the kind of decentralization of power. And here, since all the four parks are there, this would be a very, very good model. And we can directly take it from LCTA. And this is also done with an amendment of the Karnataka Municipalities Act, which again has a, when the act has been also passed from the parliament, if I'm not mistaken, because this is as per the Ministry of Works and Industries, and that is how in Schedule 2. So we could directly use it also in Maharashtra. And the third thing is, we know that if circular economy is done in the right way, it is not only there for the industries, but for Maharashtra itself, because we will be diverting waste from the landfill, which means direct link to climate change. Almost 5% of the climate change mitigation can be done because of this circular economy parks. So when we are talking about G20 and we are talking about climate change and India is committed to it, I think this would be a best example where with numbers we can explain. Otherwise also there are so many things in India which we are doing. But here we will have clear numbers which Maharashtra can proudly give it to Government of India. And that's what really I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
कामले सर, जो मैडम ने अभी बात करी अभी, जो बिनिशा जी ने बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात करी है. देखिए, हम बीच में सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि ऑल ओवर अक्रॉस इंडिया के अंदर कितने वेस्ट कलेक्टर है. मैं वेस्ट नहीं बोलूंगा, रिसोर्सेज बोलूंगा, रिसाइकलिंग मटेरियल बोलूंगा, चाहे वो प्लास्टिक हो, पेपर हो, मेटल हो, कोई भी रिसाइकलेबल मटेरियल है. रैक पिकर के बाद से लेके कंज्यूमर तक बहुत बड़ी चेन होती है, एटलीस्ट 5-6 लोगों की चेन होती है. अलग अलग जगह पे अलग अलग दिशा में सब लोग काम कर रहे हैं. ये लगभग 60-70% समझ लीजिए फॉर्मल है, 30-40-50% इनफॉर्मल है. फॉर्मल के रिकॉर्ड्स एसपीसीबी के बाद अवेलेबल है, जो स्टेट पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड है, अदरवाइज सीपीसीबी के पास अवेलेबल है. इनफॉर्मल का एक दूसरे से जाके या हमको उस सिटी में विजिट करके पता करना पड़ेगा कि इनफॉर्मल में कौन है. अगर ये रिकॉर्ड, अगर महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट इनिशिएटिव ले और एमआरआई के साथ में एटलीस्ट परमिशन दे, तो एसपीसीबी से हम रिकॉर्ड्स निकाल के उसको कंपाइल करके सॉफ्टवेयर में डाल के अच्छे तरीके से महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट के यूज के लिए दे सकते हैं. और एडिशनल जो इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर के जितने भी वेस्ट कलेक्टर है, चाहे वो वुड में हो, चाहे क्लोथ्स में हो, चाहे पेपर में हो, प्लास्टिक में हो, उसको हम एड ऑन कर सकते हैं ताकि उनको इंटीग्रेट करके उनको हम अपग्रेड कर सकते हैं. ये रिकॉर्ड्स आज की तारीख में ऑल ओवर क्रॉस किसी के पास में भी नहीं है. मुझे नहीं पता है कि जब इस चीज में रिसर्च होगा तो 10,000 कलेक्टर निकलेंगे, 20,000 कलेक्टर निकलेंगे. आज की तारीख में यूजर, मुझे मालूम है, एग्जांपल एल्यूमिनियम के यूजर महाराष्ट्र में 100 है. जब आप घूमेंगे जाएंगे तो हो सकता है वो 200 यूजर निकलेंगे. एसपीसीबी के पास में एज ए यूजर पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड का उनके पास लाइसेंस होगा, लेकिन वो कंपाइल किया हुआ डेटा नहीं है. ना इधर गवर्नमेंट के पास है, ना इधर हमारे पास है, ना इधर कोई एजेंसी के पास है. ये एटलीस्ट महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट इसको इनिशिएटिव लेके वो डेटा कंपाइल करने का काम चालू करें. अगले 6 महीने में 99% ये डेटा को हम कंपाइल कर लेंगे. एक एग्जाम्पल सेट हो जाएगा कंट्री के लिए कि एक महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट ने काम किया है, हम इसको स्टेट कंट्री वाइज कर सकते हैं. ये डेटा जो भी बात करते हैं, जो मैडम ने बात किया या सुजीत जी ने बात किया, हम जो बात करेंगे या प्रपोजल लेके आएंगे पास में, या आप भी हमको उसके ऊपर ग्रांट देंगे, डेटा के ऊपर देंगे. डेटा नहीं है तो कोई प्रपोजल बनेगा नहीं. डेटा नहीं है, आपको पैसा भी नहीं मिलेगा बैंक से. कि कितनी रिक्वायरमेंट है, कितना मटेरियल अवेलेबल है और कितना दूसरे स्टेट से आ रहा है, कितना हमको इंपोर्ट करना पड़ेगा, या इसके अंदर कितने स्केल तक हम प्रोजेक्ट लगा सकते हैं. तो डेटा ही काम करेगा. डेटा के ऊपर महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट से रिक्वेस्ट है कि कुछ न कुछ एटलीस्ट एसपीसीबी के थ्रू हमको परमिशन देवे ताकि हम डेटा के ऊपर काम करें. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Now, may I request Dr. Prasad Modak to give his presentation. I'll request him to be very precise, please.
Very good morning to all of you. Great opportunity to be here with MRAI and also to you, Dr. Kamble. Your presence really very valuable. Very happy to be here. I'll be very brief. So I'm just going to share what I think about these kinds of parks, having seen them around the world and where things have worked, where things haven't worked. And I'm just thought I will share some of my thoughts here. I just have very major points for you to look at. I mean, one, of course, is the semantics, whether you call it the circular economy park or actually the circular materials park. That's my suggestion. And what it should be having, the core element is the material stocking or storage facility. That's the key. This is going to be really the heart of that park, and that's going to supply the different waste streams to different types of recyclers who would occupy their position in this park. It's also very important that we have to have a recycled products marketplace creation. Extremely important that there is an entity within the park which looks at the interests of the recyclers and connects them to the marketplace. So this is something very, very, very crucial. Building on to what Ullas you said, I think this is a place where a lot of piloting of new material recovery technologies should be there. So there has to be in the park a place reserved which is for piloting some new ideas, which then can be upscaled. So in some sense, this is a park which will diffuse knowledge, make it available to many of the startups. I think that's another thing which you talked about, right? So this is very, very important feature, should be of the park. Now, data point, which you just now said, is very crucial. So any material entering into the park should go through a IT platform with the blockchain. So we should be able to talk about traceability of the recycled product, which is the ask today. So do think about an IT platform. As the waste streams enter, we have them recorded and they go on a blockchain and we track and trace what happens to those materials in the form of recycled products. We have to have for this park a ESG policy. The park must adopt, all the members should be part of it, a very strong EHS management system to meet GIIP, the Global International Industry Practices. Very, very important. And that will make this park investor ready. That is crucial. Investors will be happy to come in and put their funds because the park itself is under ESG policy. We cannot recycle everything, and we have seen that in some of the studies I was involved in. There will always be residues, which we have to have a very good infrastructure to manage these residues. So that should be a part of the park design, that you have that kind of an infrastructure, and that will meet all the requirements on the compliance. And let this park be a showcase where you're using a lot of renewable energy. You have rainwater harvesting, you may have a green belt around it. And then, like I think you mentioned just now, we should have a very interesting PPP model and create an SPV. So this is my last slide. This is how I visualize this park. So waste streams enter. There's a blockchain-based IT system to help in traceability and material circularity index computations. That's the metrics the park will report. That's very, very important. And then you have a quality testing facilities and technical support to look at the acceptability of the waste streams and what kind of adjustments the recycler will have to do. That's the material stock storage facility, which will also look into reverse logistics. So that's very important. That provides the waste streams to the interested recyclers, where there will be contracts that they will commit, that they will buy those waste streams. When they operate, the residues which get created, which cannot be recycled, go to the common facility, where you may still attempt energy and materials recovery and safely dispose. You may use, as I said, renewable energy sources or rainwater harvesting or the green belt, what you see there. And there you see in the third line, a recycled product marketplace creation. The biggest hang-up for the recycler many times is to find buyers. And that's the facilitator part of it, of the park. In terms of systems, in the top end, you see ESG policy framework for the park. EHS management system and emergency response, important again for the park. Training, capacity building, extremely important, and skilling there. And then you also will see that informal sector integration which is very vital to be done. I think many of you, Soni ji, aap kabhi kar rahe, that happens. So bring in informal sector. Sometimes I wish we use the term as inclusive circular materials park. The term inclusive makes it distinct, that our approach is to really bring in the informal sector and strengthen them. I'll stop at this point, and I think probably one slide explains what is in my mind at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Modak. You are very precise and to the point. Sir, we will take another 20 minutes of yours. We have few industry leaders representing their specific industry, and I'll request them to say a few words about their industry, that what they want in their industry. So I'll start with Mr. Harsh Gandhi from Tire Recycling. Sufyan, can you please give, mic, please.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about what could be done as far as tire recycling is concerned. Number one, of course, for tire recycling, we actually established circularity quite a bit because majority of our customers for the reclaimed rubber that we produce is tire industries itself. So as far as the process and the technology for circularity is concerned, it's already embedded in this industry. This is an industry which uses a lot of scope 3 under the ESG, which is logistics, and that actually contributes quite a lot towards pollution in some ways. And so if one has to address those problems, if we can make the brand owners more responsible for the reverse logistics, that would in some ways help achieve circularity, but more importantly also reduce pollution. And I believe the EPR regulation that the government has attempted already provides for responsibility for the brand owners. So if that can be embedded in the circularity park, where brand owners are responsible for bringing in the waste closer to the recycling park, that would kind of make it a lot more efficient. The other, and of course a lot of people have talked about, but this is one industry which has a lot of potential for export earnings. So facilitating and housing ICDs and CFSs within these zones would actually help with the ease of logistics and therefore transport of material in and out of these parks. And one last thing which was alluded to is actually social inclusion. I mean, majority of the supply chain that tire recycling firms deal with are, as they said, is the informal sector. But can the economy parks or circular materials park provide infrastructure for this informal sector by way of education for their children and a lot of other social benefits which are missing? And if that informal sector has to be formalized, providing them with that social benefit support would actually be fairly useful. One last point is regarding energy. I mean, again, this is an industry where energy is as high as 15% of revenue costs. So providing either subsidies and or incentives for some of these by way of renewable sources would be again an interesting way to kind of promote this industry in there. With that, with those 4 points, I would sort of end my talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. Now may I request Mr. Rahul Poddar to say a few words regarding plastic industry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rahul Poddar from Shakti Plastics. Sir, recently we had a collaboration with Lionel Basel. It's one of the biggest collaboration globally in plastic recycling. So we are jointly setting up recycling plant. It's a proper example of circular economy where we will be converting waste again into bottles. So HDP bottles again into HDP bottles. So it's a bottle-to-bottle project, and it's the one and only project in India as of now. With the investment of around $250 million. So, of course, we will be glad to invest in Maharashtra. We have not shortlisted the state, but it will be preferred state. Coming on to the point on the recycling, since we are into this field since 52 years, it's our experience that recycling is very much unorganized sector, and the people belong to the waste segregation and recycling requires a lot of training programs, training activity. They don't know what about the technology, about the segregation, quality of plastics. So to be on the point, we need some training programs in the economic park so that it can support recyclers who are present there. There should be proper testing facilities for our polymer materials, since there is not much facilities overall in India. There should be common amenities like effluent treatment plants and all. ETP plants again is a big cost for a recycler, and thus small recyclers doesn't want to invest in that. So if there is a common plants in the economic park, it will help recyclers. Apart from that, the technology which is there in recycling, plastic recycling, is almost everything is imported from Europe, China, Taiwan, and all. In India is far back as of now. So if we get some import incentives for technology imports of machineries and all, as of today there is too much of duty in this. So that is also a very high cost for a recycler. Apart from that, there are a lot of startups who are working on R&Ds in innovations and all in recycling, in plastic waste management, since it's a new field altogether. So there are a lot of startups coming into the place. So we should have a separate support system for startups where we can provide a good additional supports to them so that they can innovate, initiate, come and do some good things for the industry. That's all. I'll give other people some chance. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Manish bhai.
Hi. So I'm also a part of Plastics Association, this All India Plastic Manufacturer Association. So I will also add into what Rahul bhai said, that we also need to have a effluent plant also, because water is mandatory, and when you wash that, then definitely the toxics will go away. And also one of my suggestion, that if you can allow and if you can ask the user of recycled material, where there are a lot of products we are manufacturing recycled product. So that is also again one more added. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Madam Ruchika Govil, Additional Secretary Steel, is with us on video conferencing. May I request Madam to say a few words for this circular economic policy. Yeah. Ma'am, you need to unmute yourself. By the time Madam is here, may I request Mr. B.K. Soni to say a few words regarding e-waste industry.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Sir, I just would like to submit one point only. For the success of the formalization of the recycling industry, there is a gap between the prices what an informal sector can offer versus a formal sector can offer. Because informal sector does not have any kind of OPEX and CAPEX, and they hardly take care of the compliances. So the price difference is always very high if this viability gap funding is taken care of. That is on the revenue side, not on the CAPEX side. So then it will become much easier to get the lot of material and will become easier for the success of the circular economy park. Secondly, I would like to submit these three pillars. One is training, second is transport, and third is technology. So training, transport, and technology, these are the three pillars for the success of the recycling industry. These three, if implemented very effectively, I'm sure when I'm saying transport, I'm talking about the reverse logistic. When I'm talking about technologies, then all this can be easily made available from the global market. There may not be need to reinvent all the technologies, but we can very well source it. But then question arises, who invest? So here comes the role of the government, that like the airports are being set up by the government and used by the airlines. Similarly, such technologies can be invested by the government and utilized by the industry players. Thank you so much.
Mr. Kiran Panchal, if you want to add something, on Mr. Karan, if you are here, if you want to add something to this.
Yeah, good morning. One of the key player in this entire thing is the bulk users. All the bulk users, they should be made a stakeholder where the material or e-waste which is used by them comes back to the recycling industry at a very, very nominal price, as Mr. Soni said rightly, that the price is the biggest hurdle in recycling. So I would emphasize on bulk user being made a real stakeholder in this. Thank you.
So in fact, I got a chance to be a part of the Committee on Circular Economy at Niti Aayog on e-waste recycling. And one of the propositions is that as a country, I think we definitely have a big scope to become a giant in electronics manufacturing and electronics recycling, because there is a lot of material recovery that can happen. So I think the entire, because circular economy, like rightly covered today, is environment is such an important aspect of this concept, is resource recovery and at the same time waste treatment, right from design up to disposal. For electronics in particular and e-waste recycling in particular, if this design is implemented well, I think as a country, I think it can benefit us a lot. Thank you.
Sir, I missed on one thing. Again, one thing is very important. Single window approvals for all the industries, like permissions, certifications, license. It is very important for all the recyclers here to get permissions from pollution control boards and all. Today we are categorized in orange category. We are doing something related to environment. We always push government to push ourselves under a green category. So it will help us to get the permissions in much better way, and the compliance level will also reduce. Orange, yeah. Thank you.
Some places it's also red.
Yeah, some states. But recycling should come under green. This is our suggestions. Great, sir. Thank you.
Ruchika ji, are you online now? नहीं, she told me that 1 minute I'll be coming in online. ठीक है. Anyway, जब तक एक speaker को और ले लेते हैं, कोई suggestion देने हैं, तो then additional secretary from government of India, Steel Ministry, she will be speaking on the circular economy.
May I request Mr. Adit Dalmia to say a few words?
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kamli ji. I think she's come, so I think we'll take her first. Yeah.
Thank you very much, madam, for joining us. And we have Harshvardhan Kamble ji, Industrial Secretary, Additional Industrial Secretary from Maharashtra government. They have announced and they are willing to open 4 circular economy park in Maharashtra. So we have met here along with the stakeholders and ENY and the Maharashtra government and discussing what we require in those circular economy park. So far we have discussed in 1 hour. Thank you very much for joining. Please, we are waiting for your contribution. Please take it forward.
Thank you for having me on this forum. Thank you to MRAI, and good to meet the Principal Secretary. Yeah, for government, we have been discussing this issue with Niti Aayog as well. While there has been conversation regarding end-of-life vehicles and scrapping centers, and MORTH has taken a lead regarding RVSFs, but that is a very limited initiative. And we've also always felt that actually the requirement is to have these recycling parks. And from what I've been briefed, I believe Maharashtra is considering having 4 such recycling parks of a certain size. And that is just the correct initiative, correct direction, because even when we dismantle a car, we are stuck with not only steel, which we in Ministry of Steel use, but also all the other products that come out. I think a recycling park will be able to look at it in the entirety when we talk about the used oils, the coolants, the airbags, the electronic waste. So I think it's the need of the hour. And so far, everything is being done in a very piecemeal fashion or in the unorganized sector. While METI has brought out guidelines for each one, I think there's an ecosystem when it comes together, and I can see Commodore Samadar there. So these are really the pioneer works done by Commodore Samadar and MRAI, and we must give due importance to the recycling zones. And Niti Aayog is also pursuing the same thing. I thank Maharashtra government to taking a lead in this. I'm happy to be a part of this conversation and to listen to all the inputs that are coming in and to help in any which way from the center that we can. Thank you so much.
मैडम ने लास्ट 5 साल के अंदर, उनको 5 साल हो गए स्टील मिनिस्ट्री में, हम लगभग 10-12 साल से स्टील मिनिस्ट्री से के साथ में काम कर रहे हैं. The kind of support madam has given to us to entire secondary sector is definitely we will never forget it. Still, we are getting equal importance along with the whatever the primary producers are there in the central government ministry. So they are definitely pro-secondary, pro-recycling, pro-circular economy. Thank you very much, madam, for coming here and speaking along with us. Thank you very much.
Namaskar ji. What we would like to say one thing is that, this entire thing that is happening is all evolving around the EPR policy. That there are certain mandates by 2025, you need to use 30%, 40%. I'm talking from the industry point of view. What we would only like to emphasize is that, a lot of investments are required to be done to really achieve all that. But if these policies are deferred, that, okay, instead of 2025, now it becomes 2027, what happens to the investments that people make? So there should be a clear distinction that if there is a policy and people are investing, then, it should not be postponed. Otherwise, you'll never find investments coming into the recycling industry. This is one thing that I just want to make a point of it.
Mr. Sandeep Vakharia, he's Vice President for Bombay Non-Ferrous Metal Exchange. And please say a few words.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Dr. Sandeep Vakharia from Bombay Non-Ferrous Metal Association. We basically do recycling of non-ferrous metals. We represent the trade in recycling of non-ferrous metals. Eminent speakers have given a lot of good inputs here. I would just like to take a couple of points. The feedstock input was mentioned. The inventorization was mentioned. The stocking area was mentioned. The informal and formal recycling was mentioned. Now, all this is pertaining to the fact that we do not have data, which Sanjay Mehta ji mentioned. The problem is that recycling in India is centuries old. And the way it is being done, if you actually go at the ground level and see, we can make as many reports as we want. We have so many reports, but at ground level, what is happening is not coming into the reports. Today, we filed an RTI from Bombay Metal Exchange that what is the generation of domestic scrap. I'm into metals, so I'm referring to metals. The government could not give us any data. They did not have any data on what is the quantity of domestic scrap. आपके घर से, मेरे घर से, small workshops, small repair shops, all are generating waste, scrap. But there is no data on it. Everything is getting recycled, especially the metals which are high value. 100% being recycled. But there is no data. That material is all coming into recycling, which is forming the informal sector, which is causing problems for the formal sector. So we need to regularize this before we get into any other formal circular economy park.
Yeah. Aage लीजिए, sir, please.
Yeah, so that is my thing, that first we need to look at the input, which is what everyone is saying, and we need to look at it and then proceed with all the others. There is enough intellect here to go ahead with the thing. We just need to put everything in order.
Thank you very much, Vakharia ji. पेपर में किसको बात करनी है? जयंती भाई 1 मिनट के लिए फटाफट आप बोल दीजिए, फिर सर बात करेंगे immediately. Please. जयंती भाई.
Hello. Hi, good morning. So I'll directly start my speech. Recycled craft paper industry is high capital incentive. The good part is no reject goes out as waste. Indian recycled craft paper industry has transformed over the years and now has become zero liquid discharge. Ash goes into bricks manufacturing, plastic goes into cement industry, and waste paper is again converted into paper used for all kinds of packaging. Paper is the only eco-friendly packaging material capable of withstanding heavy loads. Today, each and every industry needs packaging paper, that is craft paper, to satisfy their packaging needs. Directly and indirectly, a single paper industry generates job for at least 10,000 families. Through being good to the environment and job creation, Recycled paper industry is neglected and need a booster dose of incentives. Being highly capital intensive industry is always under financial pressure. Highly power consuming industry feels pressure due to different power tariffs under state. This disparity creates difficult in state. Paper industry are not doing good as not more is done by government to support them, and the conditions of the industry can be seen in stock market also. Paper industry is very much neglected and has to work on wafer thin margins. Margins are eaten up by the middleman who buys waste paper from rag pickers and hoard them for more gains. Remedies for this: to provide 100% capital subsidy to make small and medium players viable, to provide subsidized power across the recycled paper industry and encourage cogen power generation by paper industry themselves. As industry is having high power consumption, government should allow paper industry to generate power using municipal waste, RDF, and unrecyclable plastic, which otherwise creates problem for the environment by staying here and there, and is not at all decomposable. The maniac of stray plastic and solid municipal waste can only be cured by installing power generation units with paper plants.
जयंती भाई, quickly points क्या चाहिए वो सर को बता दीजिए, quickly please.
Bus almost done.
Yeah.
The last point.
हाँ बताइए.
Yeah. Waste paper should be traded in commodity exchanges, which will enable rag pickers to know the prices of waste and will generate more income for them rather than for middlemen like scrap dealers. The above suggestions will make paper industry more respectable, indirect jobs creator, and will lift lives and income of rag pickers. Thank you.
अभी हम कामले सर को सुनेंगे और हमने सबको सुन लिया, इसके बाद में भी हम डिस्कस करते रहेंगे. लेट्स ओवर टू कामले सर, प्लीज. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Very good morning, and I'm very happy to be here because since last 2 days I'm very happy. Now the reason is not my name. Arshdeep means lamp of joy actually, so lamp of happiness. So yeah, मेहता जी ने हर्षवर्धन बोला है, so but I like that name also. मुझे लगता है कि वो राजा हर्षवर्धन जो था, so it was not about that he was a king, so I like him. No, he gave everything back to same place. So that is why I liked him so much. So I feel proud when somebody calls me Harshvardhan. Yes. So because that is what is my philosophy also. We have to give back whatever we can in our life. And this whole today's meeting is giving back, right? So ultimate goal of ours is like, how do you pass on this Mother Earth to our next generation in the best possible way? So that is what today's meeting here. That is why we are discussing this. How do we reduce, reuse, recycle? So that is what is the purpose of today's meeting. So I'm very happy to listen to very good speakers actually, right from some of the different sectors, including Mr. Gandhi about tire recycling, Mr. Poddar about plastic and single window clearance, what he was talking about, that's always a pain point. Mr. Soni about very, very important about gap of price cost between informal sector. So that is very, very important. Bulk users, yes, of course. Policy period, government पे जरा लोगों का थोड़ा सा कम विश्वास रहता है, but this is going to be well taken, and we had a very good inputs from Ruchika Goel, Madam, Additional Secretary, because Ministry Government of India, they have already come out with a recycling guidelines on that, scrap policy. So we will also be building on that. Waste paper is another thing which is like quite famous, which needs quite attention from our side. So first of all, let me thank Mr. Mehtaji, Sanjay Mehtaji, President of Material Recycling Association of India. We had 2 meetings already, and Amar Singh ji काफी ताकत लगा के बात करते हैं. I see that passion and I really like it. We have Mr. Ullas Paradikar with us, and then also Mr. Yogesh Mandaniji, who had been after me since 8-9 months now, that we need to look at this sector. We need to, this is the kind of informal sector. If we are able to bring it into more formalized way, this is going to be another very, very big thing for employment generation and also for the investment. So, very recently, actually, he had signed kind of an agreement with shown his interest in setting up a plant in Gadchiroli district. That is a Naxal hit, law and order hit district, where government intends to bring industries. And I would definitely like to congratulate him and also for the courage which he has shown to set up his plant in Gadchiroli area. Now coming back to this today's material recycling topic, there are some concerns which have been shown. I said before the speech that I'm very, very happy. The reason for that is on Monday, we had that, by Sunday I had prepared my notes about investment in Maharashtra. Monday morning, we had 2 hours of discussion in High Power Committee headed by Chief Secretary, where 70,000 crores of projects were discussed. On Tuesday, there was Cabinet Subcommittee under Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Minister, and Industries Minister of Maharashtra. And all those proposals were cleared. So those are the headlines of yesterday. Coming back, why it is happening so fast? Why this, such kind of a big projects are receiving approvals from Maharashtra is that the policy that needs to be driven is now based on the requirements of the industry. It's not based on the requirement of the government. So let me assure you, whatever policy that will bring for recycling of the materials would be based on the requirement of the industry and not based on the requirement of government. Mr. Modakji, you would be very happy to know, you talked about the blockchain technology. Today evening, I'm going to meet a very young guy who has an innovative product in blockchain technology. He was working with Sayadri Farms, and he has that product in such a way, he developed that product in such a way that every movement of that grape, right from the farm of the farmer, is tagged along and is recorded till it goes to exports and also to the other person who has actually brought there in other country. So that software is already with us. So we can very well use that in our all this material recycling economy. I keep meeting these youngsters with new ideas because that keeps me young. And Maharashtra is kind of course, Bangalore is called as a hub of startups. But let me tell you for the record, Maharashtra has the most number of startups in India. And, but Binishaji, you made some very, very important and good points, actually. That database which you have said and which was also reiterated by you, that is very, very important. We as a government, my experience in the government, actually, fortunately, I spent about 5 years as a commissioner industries. So that experience which I have with me, I can very well say that in policy making, we are really good, better than you guys. In implementation, you are better than us. So there has to be a kind of a common ground, because then what we are walking on is a beautiful path of coexistence with the nature, which can very well be done. What I propose in our new policy, you talked about the incentives, yes, of course, they would be there. You talked about common facility center, yes, of course, they would be there. What I propose, because Maharashtra is a big state, and as Madam Additional Secretary still also said that we are trying to set up we have that in our mind to have 4 circular economy park. Why 4? As I said, Maharashtra is quite a big state. And then it is divided into various zones. We have Vidarbha, we have Marathwada, we have Konkan region. Then we, of course, have Pune and Bombay as one region. So this makes sense to have 4 regions because of the logistics which was discussed. So I personally feel that innovations, investments, logistics, exports, manufacturing, technology, all these are like clubbed together in this material recycling parks which we are going to design, the policy which we are going to bring. So there will be a kind of a confluence of all these things. So that is very exciting because then it picks your brain, your gray cells to think you more and more wisely then. So it's going to be a wonderful interaction because I'll be keeping this interaction alive for number of days to come. But let us keep a target of about 100 days for this policy formulation. We do not have much time. And then I like the people who keep their words because then I also try to maintain that standard. So let us follow it very, very scrupulously. And with the kind of Material Recycling Association's engagement in this, your passion in this, I think we should be able to do it. And hereby, I approve that Material Recycling Association of India would be a knowledge partner for this government of Maharashtra. I said I approve. So there is no need for taking any kind of discussion further. Please, so we are partner from now on. So as I said that I propose to have 4 circular economy parks in Maharashtra. So there would be, that doesn't mean that it would be only 4. So these are the big hubs which we are planning. As I mentioned about the geography of Maharashtra. So Nagpur, we want to develop it as a recycling hub for India because of its central location. Because of the road network, all major national highways running from north to south, east to west, they pass through Nagpur. All major railways going from north to south, east to west, they pass through Nagpur. So that is the biggest advantage which we have. And I would like to tell you, I have not taken government's permission for this, but I would like to tell you, there would be 3,000 acres of area reserved for recycling park in Nagpur. That is going to be one major game changer because it is also going to be a part of Delhi-Nagpur industrial corridor. So central government's involvement would also be there. And this is what we want to bring into reality actually. All this. Aurangabad, yes, another one for Marathwada, and we have Jalna is one very, very good example, I would say, of, I am very fascinated. Some of the people, they criticize Jalna for the energy consumption they do. Steel plants, of course, are energy guzzlers. But I like their story because most of them have started when they were like very small businesses. Agriculture, seed business, and then now they have developed into such kind of steel, cluster there, which can compete any other cluster that is set in India. So that story is there with us. And of course, sometimes they do agree that government has helped them. We have been helping them a lot, but as I said, sometimes they agree. Yeah, in my face. Pune, Mumbai, yes, we were talking about electronics. So that is what we have in mind. And you spoke very well about very particular points you spoke about. So that, of course, when I talk about this policy, so there would be a sectoral policies also. There would be a general guideline policy for recycling of the material, but then there would be sector-wise, we will have small subsector policies under that. So we are able to look into the nitty-gritties of every sector. Paper recycling is not as same as electronics recycling, right? So there would be some concern. Pollution Control Board, I know that. From Environment Ministry, I know that. So how do we bring them on board with us? So that is a major challenge, but let me take that major challenge with myself. You guys are good at working at the ground level, so that should be your work. All these policy issues, whatever problems are there, that would be tackled by us. What I also propose to do is take a kind of an environment clearance for the circular economy park as a whole. So that that red, orange kind of things would be a little easier. I don't say that it would be completely gone. The government never wants to give away all the controls. So we, of course, will keep some control, but we'll see how that ease of doing business you talked about, how it can be further brought into, because whenever we are planning something new, we have to give much more, because they say, wo bacche ko hum log sambhalna shuru hai, so this is kind of a baby. So we will also invest along with you. So our common facility centers would be based on PPP model. We would like you to come forward and say, yes, I would like to be a kind of a, co-developer in this sector. Okay, for that, but you have to be ready to invest more. So we would offer you land, and as I mentioned that we are going to reserve quite a big piece of land for all these parks. Pune, Mumbai, of course. Fourth one, which I'm talking about, is Ratnagiri, because that deals with the Konkan area, and then seashore that we have that has a different mechanism, different businesses over there, different manufacturing over there. Shipbreaking is one of the very major industry which we are looking at. And of course, it is in red category, and there are some problems, teething problems, as we know about in Gujarat. But we learn from the experiences of others. I would like to mention here that in California, this cap and trade policy was adopted in the US. And that has actually reduced down the greenhouses. Of course, it was more on a private sector. So greenhouse effect, greenhouse emission was reduced down within 5 years by 10%. So these are some of the good examples. And he showed me a very wonderful video. Amar Singh showed me a wonderful video in the meeting about China. So China is another good example. Of course, it is when it is a competition, we have to see them as our good competitor, and then we have to develop ourselves much better than them. So that is what is my goal, to develop Maharashtra as a recycling hub for India. And that informal sector, which we are talking about, has to be now formalized, has to come in a very organized manner. So it would take some time. I don't think that it would be happening very, very soon. But if we make a better start, a good start with all this planning in our mind, handholding them, training, technology, all this, I think we will be able to come out with technology innovations, and also training them would be a part that would be borne by the government. We would help you, we'll have a kind of a PPP model, joint venture, for that kind of a training also. So you come forward, we come forward, and then we share that cost, because it has to benefit both of us. We also talked about global international industry practices, ESG policy. So yes, we are, of course, we have our commitment to the whole world, but the timelines, we need to follow it, as I said, very scrupulously. And good things we have to pass on to other entrepreneurs, other developers, future generation. These four centers would have a circle drawn around them. So it is Nagpur, we'll draw another circle there, and see to it that other districts around that are also part of that circular economy park. So it would be kind of a hub and spoke model as well. So there would be some feeder small growth centers which would feed into this big centers. So that is what is being, what would be proposed by us, and your any kind of inputs on that would be most welcome by us. So new technology, I just want to give you one example. We talked about methanol also. in that 70,000 crores of project, there is one about coal gasification. So, Sujit, that coal gasification is very, very unique, and they have a air product as their technology partner. So that is going to be one of the major plant. Investment is 20,000 crores in Chandrapur, which is again a Naxalite underdeveloped district. So that I had to take 8 to 9 meetings with those guys to convince them to come in Maharashtra. But you talked about $250 million. You need to spend some 20 minutes with me and I'll convince you how Maharashtra is best. Because we promised that if you look at my card, behind it says most rewarding investment destination. So that is what Maharashtra is. And I was talking about this coal gasification. Methanol is going to be produced there. LPG is going to be produced there. Hydrogen is going to be produced there. Ammonia and urea. So that is why it is like 20,000 crores of a project. We have another project in a pipeline, again worth investment of about 30 to 40,000 crores. That also is in hydrogen and ammonia, leading to urea manufacturing. So Maharashtra is now attracting quite a huge investment. This 70,000 crores in February, my plan is to go at least up to 40,000 crores. So 1 lakh crore ka humko jara cross karna hai. So that has been, now it is 3 months for me. So as I said that I work in days. So it was my 100 days target to have 50,000 plus. Another 100 days target is have another 50,000 plus. Maharashtra, of course, I am very proud to say that many companies have shown interest. Mahindra and Mahindra is electric vehicles. So again, we are very concerned. These are the core sectors which we want more investment to come in. And therefore, with them also, I had to sit for 7-8 times because they were saying कि हमको कर्नाटका ने ऑफर ये दिया है, तेलंगाना is offering so much, वो तो 50% capital subsidy दे रहे हैं, आप कुछ नहीं दे रहे हो वगैरह. But those could be discussed across the table and could be sorted out because I can assure from the government's perspective point of view that I am empowered for any kind of a discussion, any kind of offerings from government side. On government's behalf, I have full backing of the government. So whatever I say here is with a conviction, with a commitment, and with the approval of the government. So with this, I would like to end now. I have a meeting of Council Generals actually. G20 is another one. So, but I wanted to be a part of this wonderful thing which this Material Recycling Association of India has brought today. So therefore, I came here, and as I mentioned, that this is a beautiful path we are taking. I would like to end with Buddha's philosophy. See, Buddhism actually, what Buddha's major thought of that philosophy is, it's called as Pratitta Samutpada. Okay? That is what his exactly thoughts are. He says that everything here, everything in the universe is dependent on each other. Nothing comes out of nothing. He says if there is something, that means to arise of that something, there has to be something else. Matchbox जैसे हम लोग करते हैं, आग लगती है, but there is something, right? So he says that this codependent existence is what it is for all of us. And we have to save all this, we have to promote all this, and that is what this material recycling it is about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful words. And it was quite inspirational for everyone. सर की टीम यहीं पे रहेगी, सर जा रहे हैं, अपना डिस्कशन चालू रहेगा. जितने भी मेंबर्स, स्टेक होल्डर्स को हमने यहाँ पे इनवाइट किया है, प्लीज बी हियर एंड गिव योर वैल्यूएबल इनपुट्स. आई रिक्वेस्ट आवर प्रेसिडेंट मिस्टर संजय मेहता टू गिव वोट ऑफ थैंक्स टू सर.
थैंक यू वेरी मच कामले सर और महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट की पूरी टीम. बहुत ज़्यादा मजा आ गया रियली आज तो. मतलब आप समझ लीजिए 12 साल के, मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि बहुत ज़्यादा हमने दिल्ली के चक्कर काटे, बहुत ज़्यादा महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट के भी चक्कर काटे. बहुत समय से हम जा रहे हैं, बहुत समय से हम आ रहे हैं. नॉलेज सबके पास पड़ा हुआ है. सर यहाँ पर जितने लोग बैठे हैं ना सर, ईच एंड एवरी वन, ट्रस्ट मी सर, मिलियनर बिलियनर है सर, ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग। मैं आपको एक छोटा सा उदाहरण दूंगा, खैर सबको पता ही है, सर को भी बताऊंगा। रिसाइकलिंग की वैल्यू कितनी बढ़ गई है, सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी की, रिसाइकलिंग की। हम सब विदेश जाते हैं, आज जितनी भी बड़ी इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनियां हैं उनको अपने साथ में एक रिसाइकलिंग पार्टनर चाहिए। 5% हो, 10% हो, 20% हो, उसका स्टेक चाहिए, ताकि वो इन्वेस्टर को बता सके कि हम वर्ल्ड में एनवायरमेंट के अंदर, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग के अंदर कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं। इंडिया के अंदर सर अभी हाल फिलहाल में लास्ट एक साल के अंदर छोटी कंपनियों के 2 IPO आए। मैं आपको क्या बताऊं, अभी वो IPO आए 30 टाइम्स हाउसफुल, 50 टाइम्स हाउसफुल, रिसाइकलिंग कंपनी के IPOs। अब वो रिसाइकलिंग कंपनी यहां पर जितनी बैठी है, सबके IPOs आएंगे तो क्या हालत होगी मुझे नहीं पता आगे जाके। तो सो मच वैल्यू, आई मीन टू से वी आर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटिंग। अच्छी चीज है कि ये गवर्नमेंट को, मतलब गवर्नमेंट उसका आवाज तो कर रही थी, लेकिन उसको यूज में अभी ला रही है या हमको सबको प्रदान कर रही है। बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट एज इट इज एग्रेसिव गवर्नमेंट है सेंट्रल लेवल पे, और यहाँ पर उसका साथ है, हमारे साथ में डबल इंजन वाली गवर्नमेंट हमको मिली है। ब्यूटीफुल, मतलब बीजेपी यहाँ पर है और एग्रेसिव गवर्नमेंट है। इन्वेस्टमेंट उनको करना है और हमको उसका इन्वेस्टमेंट करवा के फायदा लेना है। तो मेरे को इतना ही बोलना है कि हम लोग MRAI के जितने भी यहाँ पर हैं, ये सक्सेसफुल इसी के लिए सर, बिकॉज यहाँ ये ओनर्स की एसोसिएशन है, ओनर्स चलाते हैं इसको, एसोसिएशन को। BNA में वो ओनर्स की एसोसिएशन है। ये जितनी बड़ी एसोसिएशन है वो एक प्राइवेटली नहीं चलती है, मतलब कोई आदमियों के भरोसे नहीं है। हम खुद इसके अंदर ही टाइम अपना इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, और सारे के सारे, मैंने बताया ना, सारे के सारे जो एसोसिएशन चलाने वाले लोग हैं सब बिलियनर है, मिलियनर है। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच कि आपने एटलीस्ट कम से कम MRAI को सहारा और उसको एक एटलीस्ट कम से कम पार्टनर का दर्जा दिया। तो गवर्नमेंट एग्रेसिव है, इसका हम बेनिफिट उठाएंगे। रेगुलेटर, डेफिनेटली सर ने रेगुलेटर की बात की, हमको रेगुलेटरी चाहिए। मैं हमेशा बोलता हूं कि रेगुलेटरी हमको अपने साथ में रखना है। विदाउट रेगुलेटरी अगर उनका कंट्रोल हट जाएगा, हमको कोई पूछेगा भी नहीं, ध्यान रखना। ना बैंकर पूछेंगे, ना कोई पूछेगा, ना हमको सर्टिफिकेशन मिलेगा, कुछ नहीं है। ये सर रहेंगे या इनकी अथॉरिटी रहेगी, हमारे ऊपर कंट्रोल रहेगा, तो हम कंट्रोल में काम करेंगे। तो बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है रेगुलेटरी। सर बताइए, कुछ बोलने वाले सर आप?
मैं बोला कि मुझे जाना है
सर, आधा मिनट लूंगा।
वन मोर थिंग इज, आई जस्ट फॉरगॉट टू टेल यू दैट पेट बॉटल्स का आपने उल्लेख किया था। सो इन दैट 70,000 crores of project, we already have we have approved one plant for PET bottles, and that is they are going to invest 1,000 crores in that.
मैं लास्ट खाली सेंटेंस बोलूंगा कि ENY की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, बहुत ज्यादा बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ENY की। वर्ल्ड क्लास सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी पार्क बनाने के लिए रिसर्च जितना हमको यूटिलाइज कर सके हमको यूटिलाइज कीजिए। सारे लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, उनको यूटिलाइज कीजिए। वर्ल्ड क्लास पॉलिसी बना के दीजिए। ओवर 250 छोटे बड़े रिसाइकलिंग पार्क वर्ल्ड ओवर हैं, उसको आप देखिए, उनके बारे में पढ़िए। हम लाके देंगे आपको लेके जाएंगे, और एक महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट का एक रिसाइकलिंग सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी पार्क एक एग्जांपल बना के दिखाइए इनको। ये बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, और प्लीज इसको जरा यूज में कीजिएगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच विद दिस। एंड मुझे सर खाली टोकन ऑफ एप्रिसिएशन मुझे बुके देना है, खाली जस्ट लास्ट। थैंक यू। आप लोग बैठिएगा यहीं पर, 2 मिनट के अंदर हम चालू करते हैं।